Hello everybody and welcome back. It's Creative Redundancy back again, also known as CR. And I want to welcome everyone to this live stream, or if you're catching it on the replay, thanks for tuning in on the replay. Now, the title of this is about testing and learning chit chat. Now this live stream, or if you're watching on the replay, will mostly be audio. Because it's the information that matters more. You don't need to see me for this. But you will see my intro here, like usual. And I'll have my static image up on the screen here, my big CR logo here. Some solar. That's actually a picture of the sun that I took a long time ago. I've actually used that for several solar ignition type of videos, solar, everything dealing with solar. So like I said, this is about testing and learning and, in some chit chat. Now I want to welcome Jason, who was actually in before I started. So I want to welcome him. So welcome and thank you for tuning in. Now I do have the side chat open here, ready to go here, so anyone wants to say anything or whatever, feel free. Now I shouldn't be lagging in this because it's mostly audio. I don't have any images going by or video going by, so it should be relatively pretty good. So everyone should be able to hear me. Just checking on my settings there. I should be loud and clear here. Give me 1 if I'm good, 2 if I'm not, like usual. So while I wait for some people to drop in here, just want to say special thanks to everyone that's been supporting the channel. I appreciate it. Even if you can only drop by for a little bit of time, I appreciate it. Because minutes equals hours and hours equals days and so forth and so forth. So, like always, I'm no expert in survivalism, bushcrafting, or preparedness or prepping. Just trying to learn more and put that knowledge and skill into something constructive. Now, like I said, this video slash live stream is about testing and learning and using the scientific way of testing, because it's better to know the limits beforehand at times too. Better to know how it could fail, for example, and at times it's better to fail in your backyard than out in the woods. It's better to fail at home than like out in the middle of nowhere, for example. So now I'm going to use fire as a primary example for what I mean. And I'll use it as, like an example, but this could apply to a lot of different things too. This could even to a certain degree apply to the gaming world too. I actually used to have a gaming channel a while back, so stuff like that. So that's why I used to always test stuff and stuff like that. Now testing. That's something in the survivalism and preparedness world that, probably should be done more often. Now I'll use fire as an example here. So, it's one thing to practice, right? I'm all for practicing and stuff like that. But sometimes you want to see the limits of something. So, for example, a fire starter. Like, it's one thing to use a fire starter and practice and get proficient at it and try it out. maybe it's your first time using it. So, you know, you're trying it out in the sun when it's nice out, daylight, you can see it. But if you really want to know the limits of something like that, sometimes you gotta push it. Make the test that you do maybe more real world, maybe a little bit more extreme. You know, something that you wouldn't necessarily do normally. Such, you know, I'll bring up the Firestar versus videos I've been doing. That's another reason why I started to do them. It's because, you know, I keep seeing people, no one specific, no specific channels or whatever. It's not like every channel is like that. Some people aren't like that, or some channels aren't like that. Sometimes when they test it, it's, you know, more real world. They're outside, in the snow, in the rain doing it. Where for something like fire, I would deem that as a good quality test, because when you need, for example, when you need fire the most, it's probably going to be the hardest time, the most difficult, because you don't have the right materials. Everything's wet. You're using only sparks. You don't have an open flame source like matches, Zippo, a lighter, disposable lighter, stormproof match, waterproof match, etc., etc. So coming back to the testing part, when I'm testing something, now again, I'll use Firestarter as an example. A lot of the time, I try to use the same ideas and things I've learned back in school about the scientific testing process, and remembering, you know, from high school science and all that stuff about testing stuff, where you would have such things as there's always variables when it comes to testing. There's what's called the control variable, which is basically the thing that remains the same. Then comes the thing that you change from like every one that you're testing, your manipulated variable. Then what results from it is your, if I remember right, I'm trying to remember this. I actually didn't Google this. I'm trying to remember this from memory. I didn't Google it or anything like that, so I'm trying to remember it offhand. And you know, it's been a while since I've attended school. But a responding variable, which is basically what changes because of the manipulative variable, for example. So if you're doing a fire starting test, for example, right? And comparing it with something else, comparing one fire start to another one, you would try to have a same amount of it under the same conditions, rain, snow, whatever, right? Maybe out in the sun. Same amount of it, trying to start it at the same time. And you might do something where you, instead of using sparks, you're just doing it with a lighter just for simplicity. And the only thing that really changes is that's different is the fire starter itself. So if you're comparing like something like let's see, a wax cotton ball with a petroleum soaked cotton ball and a kerosene or gasoline soaked cotton ball, for example. You know, I'm using that as an example. The difference is the fire starter. You have the same cotton ball, right? You're using the same cotton ball. It's in the same area, under the same conditions, and stuff like that. And the only thing that really changes is the fire starter itself. And your responding type of variable would be like burn time and flame size and stuff like that. Stuff you're looking at. So when you're comparing it, you'd be like, oh, this fire starter A seems to be burning hotter or better, but B is burning really high. The flame size is higher. But C started off really easily, or much easier, for example. Because at times, unless you test stuff out and like seeing it with your own eyes, you know, at times it's only a theory. And a theory, you know, everyone's got theories for a lot of things, right? Especially in the gaming world. And until you've tested it, it's just a theory. And of course, you know, sometimes you do multiple tests, so you have reproducible, repeatable results, where it's like you're constantly getting the same results from it, which shows you, you know, hey, maybe, like I said, Firestarter A is much better than I thought. I've done this 3 or 4 times now, and then I keep, you know, you keep getting the same results, where it's like, yep, Firestarter A burned the longest, C started up the easiest initially, and B gave you the biggest flame size, for example, you know, just hypothetically speaking. What's up, Kirk? Want to welcome Kirk to my live stream here. Thank you for dropping by. And like I said, this is mostly an audio live stream because it's the information that matters more, and I don't have any visuals, and you don't need to see me in front of the camera for this one. Like I said, it's the audio that's more important, or the information I should say. I'm doing good, Kirk. Thank you for taking the time to drop in. Hey, and speak of which, that reminds me, even though I can moderate myself, arrange myself, and you know, and be standard for myself, I could always use some more. So, and besides, I always like to see channels in blue and not in gray. So, there you go, Kirk. I want to say special thanks to you for all your channel support. I appreciate it very much. So coming back to when I was talking about testing and learning. Hey, thanks, man. So testing, I mean, it gives you observations too, right? You can observe things, especially if it is a fire starter again, right? Where you're seeing with your own eyes, with your own senses, smells, in your own area too, which matters too. How, for example, this fire starter is working. And that's why you'll see a lot of these fire starter versus videos now. And why I haven't shown how to make it yet is because I'm still testing it. I want to see it for my own self, right? And for everyone else to see it out there too. In different kind of conditions too. Using, you know, the same base form of the fire starter, etc., etc., the same way of making it. So that, you know, that stays the same. Or a control variable in this case. So let's see, where am I here? So yeah, observations, right? So you observing it, you see how it is, especially like I said, if you're putting it, subjecting it to conditions like rain, water, wind, stuff like that. Because for obviously fire, you know, it's per se weakness. If I use that term loosely, it's gonna be against wind and water. You know, wind can blow it out, flames out, water's gonna make it cool it down, get the you know, the coals wet and stuff like that, which will affect the fire starter. It's like I've said several times, I've spoken to other people, if your fire starter can handle a lot of the worst things you can throw at it in the best conditions, or if you do things per se the right way, like with the fire starter. Like I know I've shown the fire starter just out in the open, no cover, no nothing. In the real world, I would be covering it, sheltering it, and all that stuff. But I wanted to see how it is when I subject it to like harsh conditions, where maybe I'm not doing everything correctly. I'm not in the right state of mind, or whatever, right? And that's why you'll see it out in the open. I let it just drench right through, let the rain hit it constantly and stuff like that. So at least in my own area, I know how it can fare in terms of using it and trying it out, in the fire starter in different conditions, like I said, rain, light rain, medium showers, maybe slightly, or maybe where one would consider pouring rain, or at least fast enough where it sounds like it's pouring rain. Maybe not heavy rain, but at least light rain. So if I'm using like the same fire starter again, from seeing the test results, observing it, and thinking, oh hey, I think this will go well. I've seen it in, XYZ conditions. So if you had to use it again, if conditions are worse, you gotta up your game. Maybe cover it. Not saying I wouldn't cover it anyways, like to protect it, but if that all makes sense. Oh yeah, exactly right. Like I said, if it can handle real world conditions, to a certain degree, I mean, like, if it's better, the conditions should do fare better. Sorry about that. I just had to check on a message here. Leave it up to everyone to always message CR when I'm live streaming, right? So coming back to what I was saying, it's better to know the limits beforehand at times. Better to know the limits in your backyard, in an area where, hey, it's not, if it fails, it's not gonna be a life and death survival situation because you couldn't get that fire started. You would know beforehand, so you can kind of count on it when you need it the most. Because there's no point in like having a fire starter. Oh yeah, I have a fire starter, I should be fine, and realize, it didn't work in this condition, and it wasn't even that bad of a condition. Maybe it just rained or whatever, everything's damp, and you're just like, hey, I thought this was gonna work. Where you didn't test it out beforehand, and you're just like, ah, I should have tried it beforehand before counting on it. Because something like that might get you in trouble because you're assuming, right? You're making assumptions. Because you don't want to assume something. You want to know it because you tried it out, tested it out. Have observations that you've done or seen from it, and seen it with your own eyes. Like, just because one person tested something, another person has tested something, another person has tried it out, and such, there's a variable called the environment. Environmental factors. Altitude, too. Maybe person A tested it, but they're at sea level. Maybe person B tested it, but they live in the desert. Maybe person C tested it, but, they live in the mountains. And you live, I don't know, on open plain prairie, where it might be different. And, humidity, stuff like that. And that's why I keep testing stuff out in various conditions, making sure time and time again I'm getting the same reproducible, repeatable type of results. Kind of know how well this fire starter A can do. And I'm going to be using fire starters as an example because, you know, we all like to try them out. And like I said, it's better to test them out. I've seen lots of videos where people tried stuff out and it failed. You know, it's all good if it fails. Better to fail at something when it's not a life and death survival situation at home in the backyard than bring something new that you haven't tried into the mountains on this big camp out where you're so far from resupply or civilization. Realize, oh, it didn't work, and you gotta resort to something else or use a backup option that you know that works. Because I've seen this time and time again. I've seen so many fire starter type of videos now. It's like, you know, let's just say when you need fire the most, it's probably gonna be raining. Everything's gonna be damp, snow on the ground, ice maybe. You know, if you're uncertain your fire starter works in that condition, you know, try it out. Just because like I said, just because one person says that it worked for this or it worked for that, doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the same results using the same amount or the same fire starter, right? You know, that's why I always say, you know, results still vary here and there and stuff like that. Just not have a sip of coffee here. My mouth gets dry when you start talking a lot. And another thing is, I've seen it too, where someone was trying out a water filter. They didn't get the same results or the same thing the next time they used it, which was the second time. I'm like, oh yeah, that's good to keep in mind. And that's why you not just test once, you test it multiple times. And like I said, trying to get reproducible, repeatable results within, you know, a certain level or range of expectations for whatever it is. So like for like a water filter or whatever, you're getting the same kind of output per minute or whatever, or flow rate. Or for like a fire starter, relatively within similar amount burn time, heat output, flame size, especially if you're using the same size fire starter every time. So, you know, for example, the famous petroleum jelly cotton ball. You know, people have tried it out and stuff like that. I actually want to subject it to fire starter versus videos. I just need some more petroleum jelly to do it again. I kind of went away from that, but I might bring it back. At least try it out. And maybe do a side-by-side comparison too. So comparing it to another fire starter. And I actually might bring in like fat wood and other stuff. I'm subjected to some of these fire starting tests that I've done. From like the soaked wood stick that I've soaked for like 24 hours to the misting spray bottle test. See it out in the real world with rain. Maybe even try it in the wintertime against snow, wet snow, all the way down to like ice. That way I know, you know, the kind of limits for the fire starter. Now obviously in the real world you're not trying to have a base for your fire, right? You're trying to have that base for your fire. try to have a shelter for your fire, to cover your fire. But when I'm doing these tests, I throw that all out the window. And assuming that you're new at it and just trying it, using it the first time, or the base that you use is still kind of damp, that kind of thing. So now coming to the learning part of this video. From doing tests such as like that and trying it out and all that stuff, you start to learn more about it, start to understand it better. Where you know it, for lack of a better phrase, you know it like the back of your hand. And obviously practicing equals learning more about it too. So obviously like something like feather sticks, fuzz sticks, making shavings, you practice enough, you start to learn more about it. It's like nuances, differences, be like, oh, if I go this, I can, and adjust, making fine adjustments, if that makes sense. Hello, Farmall Fanatic. Thank you for taking the time to drop in. I appreciate your channel support very much, so much that I will welcome you personally. And you know what? Why not? Why not? You supported me quite a lot, so I don't mind. I like to see, like I've always said, I like to see people in blue, not in gray. So I can always use, even though I can moderate, wrench, spanner my own channel at times, I don't mind having a few extras here and there. Hey, that's cool, G-Sam. That's cool. Yeah, you know what? Why not? Why not? I've appreciated J-Sam your kind of shout out spotlight on me before, which I saw, of course. So I appreciate that. I will return the offer, so to speak. So I'll probably go for another 15-ish minutes for this, because I don't think this would be that long. Especially since I'm only doing audio mostly for this. So let's hear. Oh. Another thing is predictions. Sometimes our predictions, even in life, based on info that you've known before, sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes you're predicting a fire start to go for like 10 minutes, you went for 5. Well, obviously something's different. But, learning more about it. Your prediction might have been wrong, or way out the window. But at least now you've learned that, okay, it's not as long as that fire starter is not to last as long as I think. Especially if you're using petroleum jelly cotton ball as the example. You're using the same size of cotton ball and relatively the same amount of petroleum jelly. It's when, once you start changing to like a bigger cotton ball and more petroleum jelly, your results are gonna vary. Because you have a lot of, you don't have, you're not testing, you have too many variables. You're not, per se, controlling the variables as much as you could. So I'm hoping that everyone's enjoying this audio live stream. Maybe it's kind of boring, but I just kind of wanted to bring this up about the testing and learning, kind of using the scientific way of testing. And like I said, better to know the limits of something beforehand, before relying on it and realizing, hey, It's not what it's cracked up to be. You know, I don't mind watching videos of failed tests, because even if you fail, it's not a complete fail. Fail, or things that didn't work, just means you just figured out, hey, this doesn't work. Let's not do it the next time. And hopefully, you'll make progress in learning about it, and you'll eventually figure out that perfect recipe, that perfect combination of, for example, petroleum jelly and con, for example, right? Where you're just like, oh, if I do this and put it in the center and then wrap the con ball around it or something silly like that, it works so much better, Because sometimes a slight change can make a world of difference. And of course, you tried it out and you're getting repeatable, reproducible results. Time and time and time and time again. And you've tried it in different areas, right? So I'll probably go, let's see, I've already been at it for like 32 minutes, give or take. So I'll probably go for another 10 minutes, give or take. In the last 5 minutes, I'll open it up for some questions specifically about this. It'll be a Q&A specifically about this. And most likely any other questions I probably won't answer at this time. Unless it's really easy, yes or no, or whatever. Or if you want to see how I'm doing, something like silly like that, I'll answer that. But, yeah. Or if you want, if you want to see something in the future on the channel, maybe I'll answer that too. So let's see, coming back to some other stuff. Oh yeah, about the testing. Another thing is about like a flashlight, a torch, headlamp, a lantern. Now, sometimes these instructions that come with it, specs, manual, they'll say, oh, it can go for this long. Well, try it out, test it out. Now there's gonna be variables like type of battery you use and stuff like that. Rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries, lithium ion type of batteries, alkaline batteries, and stuff like that. The results may vary, like as in runtime. Because again, it's better to know beforehand and be like, oh, I usually only get like, it says, oh, I can get 5 hours on high setting, for example. Usually you're getting like 4 and 4.5 hours. At least you know that. And if you used like, your normal rechargeable batteries you use a lot, and then, or like a year old and you're still getting 4.5 hours, at least you know. So alkaline's lithium ion battery would probably do more or less the same, but at least you know beforehand. So if you're on an extended camp out trip or have to use it night after night for a long time, at least you know, oh hey, I need to bring an extra set or two to get by for that time period of time. Or you're using the low setting as much as possible to conserve battery power, so you can actually have that runtime that you want. So let's see, what else did I want to say here? I'll come back to the first, or well, actually with matches again. Now I'm actually wanting to like do like a fire starter versus video in the future. Just waiting for the conditions to be right, or a way to mimic the conditions with stormproof matches. Because Because I've actually seen some other videos where, you know, well, basically where I'm not seeing a flame. I want to say that. At least, if not for myself to know, for my own area, oh, hey, it can handle this much of wind. Maybe for other people to realize, it's not, maybe it's not as bomb-proof or bulletproof, metaphorically speaking, as it seems. Or there's still a limit to it. Like, it's not like I see people like trying to use a stormproof match in gale force winds or or something like that on that wind scale where it's like 7 or 8 or 12 on that scale is like hurricane strength. It's not like I'm seeing it like that, because if you start seeing being able to do something like that, you'd be like, oh wow, that's even better than I thought. Have I tried it? No. Have I seen it? No, not really. Because usually I don't see it like that. I mean, I've stormed matches, and I bought like one box. Well, a set, I should say. I've tried it a few times, and 40-yard kilometer wind did great. Nothing to it. So I'm wanting to up the ante, up the difficulty, and see can it handle a higher wind speed and stuff like that. I mean, around here, the highest wind speeds I've seen in the last 20 years, whatever, right, is like up to 90 kilometers an hour. But that's a gust speed. So I just wanted to eventually try out Stormproof Hatch in like faster wind speeds, just to see how it fares. Because obviously in the real world you would try to cuff your match as much as possible, cuff your later flame source as much as possible. That's a given. That's common sense. But I want to try it. Let's say your hands are cold or whatever, or you're trying to put it into like some fire lay that you have, so you can't cuff it for a little bit, something like that. So, since I'm in the last 5 minutes of this live stream here, I'm opening it up for some Q&A here right now for a little bit here. So Q&A about testing or about things you've tested. Maybe not necessarily a fire store, maybe it's like some hammock, shelter. You tried it out and stuff like that. Or maybe it's a fail where you're like, hey, I tried out this shelter. It was great in sun, but it didn't do so well in this wind speed, or when it was there, this, here, or there, or whatever. I'm gonna ask a little bit here. So I'll probably go for another 4 minutes here. I'll probably go to the 3/4 of an hour, 45-minute mark on this. I didn't want to make this too long, especially since I'm only doing audio for this. So in the meantime, I'll get a question or I won't. But in the meantime, I want to say special thanks to everyone that's dropped by. GSM, Kirk Miller, Farmal Fanatic, thank you for taking the time to drop in. However long you stayed or have stayed or will be staying, I appreciate it. And I appreciate anyone that's watching the replay. Or maybe you're kind of lurking in the background on the chat. That's cool. That's cool. Don't be shy. I won't bite. So let's say if you get mixed results in testing, you know, that's something else too. You realize whatever Firestar, it's not as, you have to do certain things to make it more consistent or more likely to be lit easily, especially if you're trying it out with just sparks from cool sparks from like a dead lighter. I mean, sometimes I'll try that first, because I'm like, well, if I can light something up with the cool sparks from the dead lighter, the hotter sparks from the ferro rod are more that I can shower more, that are hotter. Should be able to get this going. Shouldn't have no issues with that. I guess I'm not done getting Q&A at us. That's alright. It's not a big deal. Like I said, the information was more important anyways than a story right now. And I shared a little bit more, and you know, kind of why I started to do that Firestar versus series of videos, subjecting it to real world conditions. Because, well, I gotta use this stuff in the real world. At least get a sense of it. See, observe it working or failing in those conditions. And if it happens again, in a real situation, at least I know, hey, maybe I need to up my game a little. Oh, I shouldn't take this for granted. Or whatever. So I guess I'll finish this live stream in the next like 90 seconds to 2 minutes here, coming up to that 45-minute mark. So there might be another live stream after this, not sure. And of course, like always, I have a whole back library of videos, the Firestar versus series. There's playlists upon playlists of stuff, whatever interests you, you know. And you can find the time to check them out, you know, that's cool. You know, check out as much as you can, you know. Leave some feedback. You know, I appreciate the feedback on or comments on either the live streams or on the static normal videos. You know, for two reasons. It shows, hello, who's been watching it. Is it just because you view it and don't leave a comment? I don't know if you've watched it. So I'm not sure. Sometimes I'll be like, you know, I'll be like, oh, you didn't see that? Oh, okay. I didn't know. Sorry. You know, or something like that. So I guess it's time for that outro here, like always. You know, change has always not happened in this world. It's an eventuality. So as the world changes, so must oneself. And of course, to reach that new plateau or new level of skill and knowledge, you gotta practice. Perfect it. Make progress in it. Get better at it. Now, one person can't help everyone in this world. It's almost physically impossible, or at least very unlikely. But one person, regardless of age, race, gender, height, weight, IQ, skill level, knowledge level, experience level, can help someone in this world. And until the next video for me, and as always, I appreciate all the channel support from all you guys out there. Whether or not you've hit that bell notification or that red button, you know, subscriber count or whatever. Regardless, I appreciate it. And it's peace out from the guy that's 98.6% of the time always in creation mode. Because obviously I'm still human and I still have other things to do. It's peace out from CR. I will catch you next time. Thank you and take care.